Game Points here on TSN 690. I'm your host, Matthew Ross. Eric Thomas on the board. Stefano Micella helping us out as well. We're here until 1 a.m. tonight. And don't forget, oh, yes. Oh, that sounded a little creepy, but it's okay. It's late night. I can be creepy if I want. NFL Sunday is back on Sunday. Well, what other day would it be? Allow myself to introduce myself. Eric Thomas and I will be front row here in the studios for what should be two epic games. Beginning at 12:30, we'll have a pregame show taking you all the way up until the Westwood 1 feed at 2 o'clock. And we'll be here throughout the day. That's right, Eric Thomas and I spending 8-9 hours together. We are both married men, so don't let your minds wander. But it should be a fun afternoon. I cannot wait for these two games.
It's not new, though. We've been doing the 12 to 8 shift for quite a couple of weeks now.
Well, we have this glass between us for most of the day. And if you're just wondering out there, no, we have not done the Titanic thing with the hands. No, that's never happened before.
I don't pantomime.
Oh, boy, this is degenerating really quickly. TSN Matthew on Twitter.com if you want to join us there. I've been, it's funny, this is kind of off topic, but I've been tweeting with a couple of ESPN writers and some other interesting people. So basically, there was an ESPN article earlier today by an ESPN writer by the name of, and I want to get this precisely correct, Mr. Dave Schoenfield, talking about the worst mascots of all time. And I weighed in and I said, don't forget about Suki. 1978, the Montreal Expos had a mascot for 1 year, a kind of robotic version of what the Mets have, kind of a baseball on the top, but a robot suit. And apparently it frightened kids, from what I understand. I was born in 78, so I didn't have the luxury of meeting Suki. But they got rid of him, and they went very kid-friendly as the Expos bought the rights to a orange fellow that was created by Jim Henson, never used on television, and he became Youppi, and very kid-friendly, obviously. So I told the guys, hey, you may want to look up Suki, and they retweeted me and commented and all that kind of stuff, and Jim Capel wondering if Youppi is perhaps the only mascot in sports history to be with two teams. I'm not sure, although I think it would be a crime if back in the St. Louis days for the NFL franchise Cardinals, if the St. Louis baseball and football team didn't have the same mascot. That'd be kind of a waste, right? You got two guys doing the same job with the same team name? That'd be kind of weird.
Well, maybe a different tint of red for the Cardinals. Who knows? Maybe there was a really subtle difference that you could really decipher if you looked into it.
So then a guy by the name of Kevin Martinez on Twitter, Kevin_Martinez, is apparently the Mariners' VP of marketing. And he weighs in saying that Youppi was a true pro, spontaneous, mildly acrobatic, and surprising dance moves. I thought that was pretty detailed for a guy who, is with the Mariners, but it looks like he was an upstate New York guy at heart. So I guess that would explain it. And a couple of fans weigh in, and just the thread keeps going. I joked that the franchise went down the tubes when Youppi stopped riding a four-wheeler on the field, and he kind of acknowledges that. So it's kind of a fun little thread. If you want to weigh in, you can do that. You can go to TSN Matthew on Twitter.com, and then of course talking about the Canadians and how they're not that great, that the ceiling is just very low. It's like walking into somebody's basement where they have I'm 5'9.5", right? So if I go into somebody's ceiling and it's a 6-foot ceiling, and you see a lot of those in NDG in some areas, it's a little claustrophobic, not much room to rise. And that's exactly what the Canadians are. They're that kind of team, I think. Anyway, but we got some tweets coming in that are kind of interesting. From Casey Dulson. How could you say that in Montreal? You should be ashamed of yourself as a Montrealer. I agree with you. They aren't ready for the playoffs. So that was kind of a fun tweet. And this gentleman, Paul Lemire, just keeps weighing in over and over about it. This team isn't that good. They won't be with Terrier and the Smurf parade out there. Wow. Hammering that Smurf thing. My kids love the Smurf movies, so I'm partial to the comments. But not the nicest of things he has to say about the Canadians. And this from this is an interesting Twitter handle. Roy in Bangkok. Okay, Habs will never win with Michel Therrien behind the bench. Too stiff, incapable of adjusting mid-game. Can't motivate the team. Time to go. I don't know if Therrien is the problem. I think he can only work with what he has. I don't know if he's the problem. The guy took a team to the Stanley Cup final. He has a pretty good record with the Canadians so far in his second stint with them. I don't think you can lay this on Therrien.
I don't agree with certain things that Therrien has done, but what has his sample size been so far? A 48-game season last year and about halfway through a
Where
season
he finished
this year.
second place.
Exactly. And halfway through a season this year. So already like 80 games in and already people want him gone. This is probably why the Canadians haven't been successful. If you want a rotating carousel at head coach and at general manager, you need continuity in your organization to be successful. All the most successful franchises have it.
All right, we have somebody to comment on Mascots. 514-790-1690. And kind of topical as well because for the first time ever, the Chicago Cubs are going to have a mascot. Clark Cub, named after one of the streets where Wrigley Field is situated. Kind of cool. But let's talk to Rob. He wants to talk about the San Diego Chicken. Go ahead, Rob.
Hey, man. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you.
All right. You also remember you see the San Diego Chicken like a monster truck and every other stunt event other than baseball.
Okay, so he had some versatility, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's true. I used to see him on telecast for Padre games and all over the place, basically. And then he just fell off the map.
So maybe he's in like a chicken coop rehab or something like that? Is it what you're thinking?
Well, what I was thinking is, did he represent the whole city of San Diego?
Right. Yeah, no, it's a good point. Well, maybe you should. Maybe I should bring that up then to Jim Capel on Twitter. Thanks for the call. Are you a big Youppi fan?
Youppi should be exactly where Youppi should be, and you and I both know who he represented.
Yep.
And I want my team back too.
Well, I like that. Thank you so much for the call. It's Rob talking about the San Diego Chicken. You don't get a lot of chicken calls. I don't know. It's really nothing to say after that sentence. It's Game Points here on TSN 690. Eric Thomas laughing in the booth as well. You're a Braves guy. You're from Atlanta. What's their mascot like?
They had a couple over the course of their career because when I was coming up, I heard you mention that you didn't get to see a couple of the mascots, but when I was coming up, Chief Nakahoma for the Atlanta Braves was a very controversial, I will say.
Yeah.
And he would fire off his cannon any time that the Braves hit a home run.
Now, I don't think Native Americans had cannons. That's kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't have a lot of things that we attribute it with sports nowadays.
That's interesting. All right.
But they've had a second mascot. I can't seem to think of his name right now, but it was almost like that Mets mascot. He has the baseball, like giant bobblehead, and it's just trying to be some comical. It's like, if you're going to do that, don't have a mascot at all. Because I understand why you get rid of Chief Nakahoma. It's very offensive to a lot of people, but you're going to go silly and overboard and steal somebody else's idea. Just figure something else out.
I think he's also offensive to guys who operate cannons. That's something else maybe that they
haven't
consider.
seen that since about the 1770s. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, true story. When I was a kid, my dad would buy pennants of all the Major League Baseball teams, and I had them all up in my room all over. And back in the late 70s, early 80s, the pennants, obviously the designs were a little more crude or primitive than they are now, and not as sleek and so on. And so every single night, I would almost have nightmares. Almost every night, it would scare the crap out of me because the highest pennant in the right corner of my room was an Atlanta Brave pennant, and it was this laughing Indian. and it scared the
Chief Nakahoma. That's Chief Nakahoma.
But it wasn't like a cartoon. It was like almost like a man's face. Like
yes, I know exactly. Yes,
oh my God,
that's the logo. That's the Braves logo, and that's what they designed. This big. It was like a plastic.
Oh,
I don't know if
man.
anybody, and you probably haven't, but go Google it. Go Google the Oklahoma State. Stop, Marco Polo in studio as well.
What began weekly in 2004.
There's my intro.
There's your
Should we
intro.
start over?
No, we're good. We're
Okay.
good. We're just getting things back on track here. But the Oklahoma State Cowboys, it's a big kind of plastic bobblehead.
That's
It's very goofy looking.
Yes.
That's kind of what Chief Nakahoma was. It was this oversized, big Native American head.
I am sweating right now thinking of that pennant, which actually is in a garbage bag in my garage because my wife won't let me put them up in the basement. But it scared the hell out of me. So I can't even imagine what kids were thinking when they went to the ballpark and seeing this crazy figure. TSN Matthew on Twitter.com. This coming in from Montreal Design. If the Habs do trade Gianta at the deadline, other team is only responsible for what's left on the deal, about 1/4 of $5 million. Understood. Completely understood. But some teams are, up against the cap. So obviously it's not the easiest of moves. But I don't know. Is there a GM out there going, yeah, where can we find a 5'7" guy who's making a lot of money, who's not scoring anymore, and who's lost a step? Let's see. Let's go through our Rolodex. Oh, I know. Montreal. They usually have a bunch of small guys. Let's call them. No, this magical general manager does not exist. Okay? So
Pierre Gauthier is not a general manager anymore. So, I mean,
we should need a rim shot when that
someone has to hire him again. Then the problem will be fixed.
Yeah. By the way, we do have... Wait, wait a second. Are we missing a microphone in here? Is it up there? It's up there? It is up there. All right, it's on. It's a hot mic. Hot mic. Mokan has sauntered into the studio. I told you could take tonight off.
I only saw a message outside the door, actually.
Oh, I was like, you don't need to come in. You're running late today. You have other, it's nice of you to drop
Team
by.
player.
How you doing? And by the way, that is a more lively hoodie than you're normally wearing.
I am wearing this because all my other clothes are in the washing machine because Mrs. Khan is, I wash my own clothes, but she's away hanging out with the Queen and the Prince of England.
All right. By the way, this tweet coming in, I'll throw it out to everybody out there, TSN Matthew on Twitter.com, from Corey Todd. Here is a good question for you, Matt. Who plays Yuppie? As in, who is the guy/girl in the costume? I can't find the answer. Can you? Wait a second. Yuppie isn't real? Somebody's in that suit? I've been lied to. Many, many years now. I don't know the answer to that, Corey Todd. I'm just going to call him Corey Todd, as if it's his... I don't know if it's his last name or his middle name, but I'm just going to call him Corey Todd. Corey Todd, I do not know the answer. If somebody does know the answer, or maybe you are one of the guys who played Yuppie out there and you're sitting at home listening going, back in 1982, I used to...
No.
What?
You don't give yourself away if you're Yuppie.
Yeah, especially since he's still going on, right?
Yeah, it's like the Blue Blazer.
There's his wrestling reference. All right, clock it. 12:14. Mokan got a wrestling reference in.
He's only been in studio for about 2 minutes.
He's got a Simpsons reference to go and a Seinfeld reference to go. So he's got some work to be done. But there's food for thought for anybody out there who wants to unmask Yuppie and frighten all the listeners at home. It is Game Points here on TSN 690.